we're 30 seconds in. I already forgot what I was doing. I took the graphic off before I started the intro. This is gonna be a good one, boys and girls. And welcome to another arousing edition of Deerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with two P's, as always, joined by my lovely, esteemed, recently hungover but looking a lot better, or maybe that's because his face is frozen. Definitely because his face is frozen.
What is
Dan Thury.
Jesus?
I thought you were holding
What's
real still there for a second.
Oh my God! What's up, guys? At 3BFF. Yeah, So we started our in-person session again for our D&D campaign. And I decided that it was a good idea to not stop drinking at all. I got home, continued to nerd out and play WoW, and continued to drink. So your boy is pretty in rough shape, at least before the 56 ounces of Powerade hit my system.
I drank from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Saturday, so I was right there with you. A lot of beer sampling went on that day.
Oh, I bet.
Tell myself it's sampling until it's not. Hey, before we get into our fantastic guest today, before we get into the show, we got to let you know that today's show is not brought to you by, but going to offer you the support of a draft guide. Because we don't do one of those. It's a lot of work, and Dan and I are kind of like work averse most of the time. So our buddies, Jake and Kyle, over the Fantasy Headliners, amongst others, have done a really, really good job putting together a draft guide that can be yours for the low, low price of $19.99 on pre-order. So promo code BEER. That promo code, BEER, will enter you to win a signed DJ Moore jersey. But, I mean, if you like having a reference handy for you while you're drafting that really breaks down everything from offensive line to free agent moves to free agency moves, offensive coordinator changes, whatever you can think about, things that aren't easy to find even, they've got you covered. So again, that is the Fantasy Headliners 2020 Draft Guide. Can be found on their website, which is linked in the YouTube comments or in the YouTube description thingy. If you're not listening on YouTube, thefantasyheadliners.com, right on the front page, promo code BEER. So be sure to check that out. And without further ado, we are joined by Chris Nelson of the Dynasty Draft Room, the FF Vigilante, to talk about the AFC North. Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people where they can find you, what it is you're working on.
Just like you said, it's the FF Vigilante over here at the Twitterverse. I write for the Dynasty Draft Room, and I cover the Group of Five and Independence. So it's kind of a lot, but at the same time, I love it because I can dig really deep into all the guys that a lot of people are going to forget about because most of the time everybody's worried about the Power Five guys, the 5-star, 4-star guys, and things like that.
I mean, you brought up Kenny Gainwell, and
exactly.
you had my heart. Like, I know Hopper will eventually find out about Kenny Gainwell just enough for me on this show. If I see any pro Kenny Gainwell on the Twitterverse, it gets all my love.
Exactly, because he's the guy, and everybody's trying to make him seem like he's going to be like some useless scat back or something. But I won't get into that. I could talk about that forever. And then one more thing is I have for people who want to get into Devy, every year since Yahoo's created their NCAA fantasy leagues, I've started this thing called FF Vigilantism 101. And I, your teacher, run you through the new people or the newish or even the vets into the college fantasy football game and give people a place where it's not any money involved and you just kind of, have fun. I might actually have to make a second league this year, but yeah, so look out for that coming soon.
Yep. Hey, about that, might be a good way to get my feet wet. because
Yeah,
Dan's jumped into this.
Just don't join a league that's got 25 Debbie deep as your first Debbie league.
No.
Yeah.
Like boy, like I did. Yeah, there's I mean, I knew a lot of names. I just didn't like. It's my first year doing Debbie, so it's a bit overwhelming to begin with. But then to be thrusted into like, I just threw myself in the fire and said, "Fuck it." Like, I guess we're gonna go all out.
Hey, speaking of Debbie and IDP and things like that, did you see that trade I sent you over this morning, Dan? Not the trade for you, the one I sent to the group chat with you, me, and Nick.
Yeah, yes. I didn't. I saw the pieces involved, and I believe, if I remember correctly, that I liked both sides of it. Yeah, depending on like the team structures.
So he was looking for young players, and I'm win now. Like I was second in the league last year, so you know.
I mean, how much did it hurt to trade away Damian Harris though?
Only a little bit, because I have Zeke and Kenyon Drake this year, so like I'm all in for this season. Oh, and I drafted DeAndre Swift, so not really that bad.
There's nothing wrong with it. I love DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, so that didn't hurt that bad, but I guess the people know what I'm talking about. Make your judgments at home. I gave up Juju Smith-Schuster, Jonathan Abrams, and Damian Harris to receive Kareem Jackson, Julio Jones, Marvin Jones, and Khalil Mack. That gives me a wide receiver trio of Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, and Cooper Kupp on that team, with a Zeke Elliott, Kenyon Drake running back tandem. So I'll take that. Oh, and Patrick Mahomes. So and George Kittle. That team's stacked.
That team is stacked. I forgot how good that roster is.
Yeah, I do too, until I go look at it. That team is loaded.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's a small league.
There should be no reason you shouldn't win that.
Yeah, it's not like it's a small league either. All right, anyway, let's get into what we're drinking. Enough of me rambling about my personal trades. We'll get into a little bit of news and then cut into the main course of this meal. You always say the meat and potatoes, but you know what? We're going to make it more friendly. We'll cut into lasagna this episode.
Dude, lasagna is one of my all-time favorites, so I'm all about it.
News.
Yeah, shut up. I know what I did. I did. God damn it.
You were just struggling, man.
I told you I'm not. There we go. I think I got it.
Fueling Beerfield.
There you go.
Please talk, because I'm clearly not capable of talking.
I mean, we've done this for what,
295 episodes. This is 295
episodes, and we still fuck up drops. We still mess up preview and review.
This part of the show hasn't changed either. This has been the same for 295 episodes.
So I am drinking Great Lakes is Holy Moses. It's a white ale. So during the division previews, I like to go out and get beer around the areas of the divisions that we're talking about. I clearly can't get a hold of any Baltimore or Pittsburgh breweries, so I decided to go with at least in an Ohio brewery, because I don't have any Cleveland or Cincinnati at my current location. So again, Great Lakes is Holy Moses. It's a white ale. I'll get my thoughts about this a little bit later on.
Kind of forgot that was a thing we did, so I didn't do that. Also,
I mean, I did a pick 6 of it. I was like, this sounds like a good idea.
Also, I really had too much beer this weekend, like a lot of beer this weekend. So I'm drinking bourbon because I needed to switch it up.
That's fair.
I've got Maker's 46 today, so I wanted to go again with something that's a little bit more available, a little bit easier for people to get their hands on. It was either this or Wilderness Trail, which I think are the two newer bottles that I picked up, but Wilderness Trail not as easy to find. So doing one for the widely available, get it anywhere folk. With some Maker's 46 today. Chris, you drinking on anything?
Not at the moment, but I'm a big old sours guy, so anything I can get as far as craft stuff like that, I'm always in love with.
I had a lot of East Coast sours and slushies and fruited IPAs this weekend.
Those would mess up your system if you have a lot of those.
That's what I started with. That was the first 3 hours, and then I went to like almost nothing but homebrew from 6 o'clock until after midnight.
Oh man,
it was a fun time. All right, now
I bet with the blast.
Now
News.
News.
All right, starting off, Dalvin Cook's holding out. Not going to participate in any team activities until he receives a new contract. On one hand, you see both sides of the argument to this. Running backs are not getting paid. Even on their second deal now, it's becoming harder and harder, so they got to get that money early enough. He's entering the last year of his rookie deal. They didn't pick up the team year 5th option, so this is it. He's got to get paid, got to get that second big payday, because that's about all running backs get. On the other hand, only played 29 games over 3 years. Dan, being the Minnesota fan, let's start with your thoughts on the Dalvin Cook holdout.
It makes sense. Dalvin Cook has viewed himself as the best running back in the league, thus he wants to get paid like it. There's been conflicting reports on how much he's actually going to be sinking. Minnesota, I'm going to keep talking while I pull this up. I'm going to look at their cap situation. I can see him doing it. Spielman, and the coaching staff, it's been this win now mentality for I don't know how long. It's why they brought in Cousins. It's why they're always finding ways to pay their players, which is great. Running backs, though, it's the most devalued position in all of football, especially on the offensive side of the ball, where you can find at ease replacement level players in the third or in the day 3 that can be that can be competitive on your team and give you those production. I know how important Dalvin Cook is to this team. It's going to really be based around what he's looking for, how long he wants the contract. I don't know if it's the money is going to be the biggest problem. It's going to probably be the length of the contract. Right now, Vikings are sitting at just over 11.7 mil in salary cap right now. However, that's going to work and trying to structure it out. They can probably find a way to pay him if they want to. Madison, flashed a bit last year. Same with Boone. So they have complement backups. It could turn into a Latavius Murray, Jordan McKinnon situation if they decide not to re-sign Cook. Depends how long it's hold all this. The new CBA, I think, makes it a lot harder for these guys to hold out because they have to complete their 4th year. Cook hasn't yet. So I don't know how long he's going to be able to hold out for until the fines really, really hit hard. And I can't imagine Cook spent enough money to pay off the amount of fines he'll get for it. So it's
tough because
it's tough.
Of the new CBA, you're right. You do have to complete your 4th year. So if your team doesn't pick up your 5th year option, you don't really have a chance to hold out. It's just let's hit free agency. And I'd imagine that Cook would see a payday there if he got there.
He won't get the 5th year. Him being a 2nd-round pick, he won't get the 5th year. But
yeah,
it's for him. It's why pay a running back that's missed the amount of games that he's missed so far. I know how good he looked last year. I did. I'm a Vikings fan. I watch all the games as much as I possibly can. And he's a huge part of the offense, especially a Gary Kubiak style offense. But you drafted Madison in the 3rd round last year for this very purpose. In case if Cook doesn't go, whether it be for health or for contract situations. So,
yeah.
In terms of fantasy and how to approach it, we're gonna see 2 different stories. I got Dalvin Cook at this level, or I took him too soon and my team's fucked. So there's Madison's ADP is about to skyrocket though.
Yeah, skyrocketed earlier today. I'm sure everybody's running to go pick him up.
Oh, I can't wait to see people overpay him. Like if you were a Dalvin Cook owner in Dynasty, you should have already been making attempts to get Alexander Madison just for health reasons alone and in the perfect offense for him to succeed. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Chris, you got anything to add to that?
I mean, it's funny. I guess it's not funny because these guys are trying to get their money, but like every single high-profile holdout we've seen, there's been a guy waiting in the wings that just like, oh, you're gone. Oh, my time now. I mean, you see that with James Conner. You've seen that with Eckler. I mean, so is it Madison going to continue to trend and these guys that are trying to get the payday? I mean, is he going to have a Melvin Gordon where he has to just like, okay, I'll come back, or Lev Bell where he gets the payday, but maybe not on a team that he wants to go to?
And I think that's more likely because there are teams, we love Keyshawn Vaughn down in Tampa, but and really Kenyon Drake in Arizona, but Drake I think is playing on a 1-year deal. So I mean, you think about that and the fact that there would be opportunity out there for Cook if he does hit free agency, or a team like New York who may be done with Le'Veon Bell. I mean, there are places for a back like Dalvin Cook to go get paid. So
absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got traded at some point. He's on a good deal. He's important. He's an important piece of this offense. I don't see it happening, but
yeah,
if someone went out there wanted to overpay for, I won't say an aging running back, but for a beat up running back, I guess I'm all for it.
Yeah. All right. One other tidbit here. Bruce Arians did confirm the Bucs base offense is going to be 12 personnel. Bruce Arians, not typically a bullshitter. So 12 personnel. You're going to have Gronk with either Brate or Howard, and then the one running back, and then Evans and Godwin. So you're really, it sounds like, going to be running at a second tight end in this offense instead of a third wide receiver if you're looking to get a piece. And Cameron Brate was the more used one out of the two last year. So thoughts on this one?
I think it's perfect for him too. I mean, who's going to step up in that third wide receiver spot anyways? I mean, everybody loves Tyler Johnson. I'm sorry if there's Tyler Johnson fans out of you guys, but I didn't see what other people saw. He's still transitioning from cornerback to wide receiver, and Justin Watson just isn't. I mean, he's had 2 years now, and he's not popping too much. Scott Miller did a little bit, but it seems like the way to go anyway for this offense.
Right. Well, and Cameron Brate and Gronk both can block, but I mean, really, you think of Gronk more as move tight end, and Howard more is move tight end. So Cameron Brate seems to me to have the inside track at that second tight end spot too. Dan, thoughts?
It's so hard for me to see them keep all three tight ends. I know with 12 personnel, you want to have that depth there. I guess it also depends on where Gronk is from, how much more weight he'll need to put on to get back to playing weight. And then what the offense will actually look like once training camp opens up and these guys can start playing with each other, whether with or without pads. I'll be interested to see, because Bruce Arians is a guy that shits on tight ends. Like, tight ends don't produce in this offense. And how 2020 would it be if he gets two top 12 tight ends? Because he switches, he realizes the mismatches that will be presented with Gronk up the seam and OJ Howard, the hyper athletic player that he is, and the fact that when he's healthy, he gets involved. He can push the seams as well. And obviously we know how we feel about Godwin and Evans. So it seems fitting that Bruce Arians will just use like his better players. And I agree with Chris here with the whole wide receiver 3 thing in Tampa. I like Tyler Johnson, but that's more from a analytical background to him, which is how dominant he's been with them.
We like Justin Watson too from an athletic standpoint, but it doesn't necessarily always translate. So, especially not year one in Johnson's case.
Watson is actually athletic. We don't know to what extent Tyler Johnson is. So it's people talked about wanting to own Scotty Miller or Justin Watson, and before they drafted Tyler Johnson, and the correct answer is none of them. At least for redraft, obviously, barring injury from this, is going to be the Godwin and Evans show.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey Dan, talk for a minute. I forgot to add the drop for this. I am way out of it.
I'm seeing some trades being posted that involve Alexander Madison.
Okay, I got it. I'm good.
Okay.
We don't have to talk.
Thank God.
All right, we don't have to talk about Alexander Madison more. Y'all can thank me later.
Yeah.
Division Preview.
Forgot we were doing something new this week. I didn't have that ready to go.
You good.
Clearly, preparation lacking right now. All right, AFC North. So the way that this works is going to be a bit different than last year. We're still going to take a look at each team, but we're going to do it from a standpoint of what we've been doing as far as sub-question base and really looking at what's changed or what are the storylines there instead of going position by position, depth chart by depth chart. Just going to open it up team by team. We'll still break up the monotony a little bit, but for some open discussion. So we're going to go ahead and cue it up with the Baltimore Ravens. So, the note is we know who Lamar Jackson is for fantasy, and I think that's a true statement. I don't think that deserves a whole lot of discussion. Lamar Jackson developed a bit as a passer. I would expect that to continue. I'd expect the mobility to still be there and the rushing yards to still be there. And I think anybody that's trying to say Lamar Jackson is going to be a bust this year, going to let people down this year, is trying to get too cute with it. Is there any different opinions sitting in this podcast with me?
No. He's the top 2 QB in his own, with Patrick Mahomes. Like even if he won't pay off, he'll have, regression, but he has arguably the highest floor.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
in fantasy. So
if he continues to go as a passer, maybe he doesn't regress. I mean, there's still ceiling there. I don't think he's realized his full potential yet. So
yeah, I'm all you don't pay out for quarterbacks in single QB league, so I won't own much of Lamar Jackson this year, but he's gonna smash.
Yeah,
that's just what it is.
All right, next question's a lot more interesting though. Running backs, you got Mark Ingram, who's beyond the 30 line. Justice Hill, who everybody liked, and now you toss J.K. Dobbins into the mix. So try and break that one down. Good luck.
All right, so Mark Ingram's at the 405 right now. I just pulled up FFCalc's ADP half point because that's what we play. It's whether or not you want to draft both. I don't see a problem with taking both. I love tapping both running backs.
Yeah, but what do you mean by both? Are you writing off Justice Hill?
Lamar Jackson just doesn't throw a lot to his running backs, and I don't see how, unless they get rid of Gus Edwards, which I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone at some point during the preseason. I don't know how many touches Hill is going to get, in compared to Dobbins and Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram is going to be the lead back at least for the first 4 to 6 weeks. I know that you're not as high on Dobbins as most people are, but this is to me the perfect offense for a highly athletic running back.
Well, and to be fair, I said that when he landed here too, that this was a good spot.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not high on Dobbins the person. I'm high on Dobbins, or not the person. Sorry, I don't know the person. I'm not high on Dobbins the player. I'm high in a lot of situations. I'm very high on Dobbins in the situation.
Yeah. So right now, at least based on FFCalc's ADP, Dobbins is 1108.
Oh,
they're going 7 rounds.
All different day. Give me J.K. Dobbins in that.
I don't expect it to sit there. Dobbins will definitely shoot up. Dobbins is the perfect RB4 or 5. I'd take him a lot earlier than this because he's got second half RB1 upside. Not the RB1, but a guy who's averaging RB1 points from weeks 9 on. Just the team was the Ravens was just a different team without Mark Ingram last year, and with him not being able to handle maybe the full workload that they have, and just the amount of running that they do, even with Gus Edwards there, it's going to be Dobbins and Ingram. You don't spend that high up on a draft pick and not have him be part of the offense at some point. But I've spoke too much. Chris, do you have any other things you want to add about this?
I think it's the same thing with Dobbins and Ingram. He obviously has the higher draft capital, but I think Justice Hill is going to push Edwards maybe out of the door.
Yeah.
Justice Hill was riding a little bit of a buzz going out of the end of the season. A lot of people are going to forget about Ingram, which I think is going to be a sneaky pickup because everybody is probably going to be running towards Dobbins. So I think Ingram is probably going to be the best value pick out of all these guys. But I don't see Gus Edwards mixing in at all. And if it is, then it's just going to be a hot mess until about halfway in the season when somebody takes over, which should be J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. I love him in best ball. Like I did a lot of Dobbins and Ingram. Like the stack as my running backs at best ball.
As far as Ingram goes for me, I mean, I like Ingram. I like Ingram in the 4th round. That's hella value for him too. But Dobbins being in the 11th, that is insane value, especially when what do we know about running backs? What do we know about teams that run the football a lot? Well, one of the things we know with running backs and a running back like J.K. Dobbins is that you can get it done on not a lot of carries when you have that type of breakaway speed and that type of game-breaking speed when you're on a team that is real good at creating space for players to work. We've seen Austin Eckler do it. We've seen Phillip Lindsay do it. We saw Devin Singletary do it a bit last year, where you don't have to have 20, 30 touches a game as a running back to be productive. You can do it on 10 to 12. So, and be a high-end running back, too, on that level of volume, and even crack the top 12 on that volume. So, it's not me saying J.K. Dobbins is going to be a top 12 running back. That's just me saying, that's just me saying don't forget. You do not need a ton of volume. Colton popped in with a question. What do you have Dobbins projected at, assuming everyone stays? Projected at as far as like overall finish, touches, because we haven't done stat projections yet. Gonna need a little bit. Can you give a little bit more? A little bit more context on projections there.
You see his other question. He's asking what video recording or what recording and video software do you use when you go live?
Oh, OBS.
OBS, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's freeware. So yeah, I just told you this. I just told you at the beginning of the show. I have to remember how to use it every episode because I'm terrible.
And Chris, you joined the perfect show, like where it's like it's on your production meeting every 5 minutes. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's
awesome.
It's OBS and with custom graphics and just text overlay. I don't use this. It's free software, and I don't use it to anywhere near the extent that it could be used for. All right, cool. Anything else on the running back breakdown for the Ravens before we keep it moving?
Nope.
I'm good.
All right, Mark Andrews, easy top 3 tight end. Top 5. Could
Same
be top
difference.
3. Yeah. But how about the other pass catchers? And for me, the other pass catchers here, I mean, I like Duvernay, but he's a super athletic rookie coming in. We haven't seen Snead really do anything. There's a lot of unknown. I wouldn't be surprised to see a wide receiver mix in more. But who's it going to be?
I mean, you got Marquise Brown. I guess that would be
and Hollywood.
I almost just put like Singleton's name out, but
yeah.
You said why?
Huh?
Oh no,
I didn't say why. No, I said and Hollywood, and I know why, but Hollywood had the good 3 weeks last year and then just kind of fell off.
Injuries took part of it.
Yeah.
You got
obviously he's 175 soaking wet, so it's hard to assume he's gonna be able to keep up with the rigors of of an NFL season, but he was a beast last year when he was healthy. That first game against Miami when he just completely went off. I know it's Miami, but still, rookie receiver in his first game ever. I don't care who it is. That's still impressive.
Yeah,
I mean, people forget about Miles Boykin too. I mean, he's
a
big field stretcher.
He is, and that's just it, right? How many field stretchers do you have? How many people can you throw deep to? How much boom bust can you have? And who's going to come out as the real consistent one? Marquise Brown, also going to have the highest draft capital out of all of them. So, when it comes to value, is it better to take that crack at a guy like maybe a Miles Boykin, or keep an eye on what type of hype you might get out of a guy like maybe a Duvernay? I mean, I don't know, honestly. Marquise Brown's your safest bet, but again, injuries and he wasn't exactly a model of health through college either, and he didn't give you. I mean, after week 2, really, he gave you one good week in week 7, but Other than that, it didn't really give you much.
So right now, Brown is going at the 608, which I can already tell I think would turn you off. That's a bit that feels even a bit high. But he's going as a wide receiver 31 drafted. So
I mean that's okay.
You gotta look at both. Yeah,
a lot
you gotta
of
look at
upside
both.
there. So
there's a lot of upside. Like if you go wide receiver heavy, or like if you can get Brown at your wide receiver 3, maybe 4, if you go wide receiver heavy, like I have no problems with that.
I think Boyle is a sneaky way in the back, undrafted type player you can pick up. I mean, because they threw to the tight end, 120 something times. I mean, Andrews, if he soaks up more of that still leaves Hurst extra targets that were left around. And Boyle just signed a big old contract. Yeah, he's a blocker, but I mean, we see the hurdling phenom out there on the field. He's not a scrub by any means, but he's not Andrews either. But I don't know. He could be a little bit of a week by week filler, maybe if you need it somewhere. If you don't want to spend too much capital on tight ends.
Yeah,
it's definitely not a bad call, especially with the popularity of 2 tight end leagues and tight end premium. Like he's going to be free in all formats.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and looking at their wide receiver depth chart, I mean, it really is like take your best guess. Hollywood Brown, 1st round pick. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have your chances there. Miles Boykin, though, 3rd round pick. Chris Moore, 4th round pick. Willie Snead, free agent. Seen him had big years. Jaleel Scott, 4th round pick. Devin Duvernay, 3rd round pick. They have a lot of talent here. The question is who's going to take advantage of it?
And if the offense can even support like enough outside of just Andrews, like this team is not going to change up much from what they did last year. It's still a very strong, young, fast defensive team on an offense that's like that just won't give you the football. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do it effectively and efficiently, and they're going to dare you to stop it. And we've only seen just a handful of times, teams keeping Lamar Jackson in check.
They also have Bronson Reichsteiner at running back. Don't forget about that. That's the so for those that don't know, I believe that's the son of Rick Steiner and nephew of Scott Steiner of the renowned tag team, the Steiner brothers.
What?
Yep.
I didn't think you get wrestling.
How's that for a deep cut?
Golly. Did not expect that.
I love me some wrestling. All right. Moving on then. Anything else on the Ravens before we get on? I guess I should ask that.
No.
All right. Chris, this one's yours because Dan and I have beat this topic to death. Big Ben bounce back. And the whole thing here is, can the Steelers bounce back, and what does that look like? We talked about it at length when we had Ball Blast on a couple weeks ago. We talked about it at length with everybody that's come on the show. So what's your take here on Ben coming back, and how does that look for Connor, Juju, hype on Deontay Johnson, James Washington, et cetera, et cetera?
You got some heavy hitting Steelers fans on here.
Yep.
Goodness. Yeah. No, I think he's going to bounce back. He said he's feeling the best he's had in years, which obviously, I mean, plenty of players say that after big time surgeries and things like that. But I think he can pull it together. Everybody's going to talk about, he hadn't had time with some of the newer guys and this and that. But I think he'll find a way to pull it together. Juju's going to have his guy back. Connor's going to have Ben back. Like, they have really great chemistry. He's had some of his best catches out of the backfield with Ben back. I don't think necessarily that the other wide receivers, as far as like drafting them, I don't know if I'm willing to draft a whole lot of them. I think I'm really going to roll with Juju because this offense seems like it's going to be so dangerous with all the options. I mean, you got Vance McDonald still there, Eric Ebron there now, which is like my guy. Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously Washington, Johnson. They got Claypool. Like I'm over here looking at the capital we spent, and all of our receivers are literally 2017, 18, 19, 20 as either second or third round picks are spending on these guys. So I think it's going to be a dangerous offense. You said what now?
And you got a good young and fast seat. Like this is a good Pittsburgh team. Like, this
Yeah,
is going to
it
be
is.
the AFC North is going to be fucking awesome to watch. You know, we'll see how bad the Browns fuck it up, but you know, Bengals exciting. You know, Pittsburgh should be, you know, better than what they, you know, should obviously, you know, be better than what they were last year. But this is gonna be good. It's gonna be a lot of potential points being scored.
Absolutely. I mean, you had the defense there, and it was already there last year, so it was just a case of this offense kind of not working with Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, the defense really stepped up last year. I'll rehash my Big Ben take just for anybody that has not heard it yet. I do think that they bounce back. I do think that they hit stride. I also do think that a lot of these guys are going to be good buy low candidates after the first 3 weeks, because I think it's going to take a little bit of time before you completely realize that, and for him to get completely back into game rhythm, get the elbow back up to full strength, just from a rehab standpoint, and get back into sync with everything, especially given lack of OTAs and things like that.
Yeah, and the good thing about because with a lot of the things that's going on in the world right now, like the COVID or whatever, people are saying that offensive lines are going to suffer, especially ones that are like drafting new guys and things like that, whereas our guys have pretty much been together, so we're not going to be hurting for anything. So you're really just trying to throw Ben in there and trying to get running right off the bat.
Yeah. Speaking of running, James Conner, is he the most disrespected running back right now?
I think so, but I mean, I might be a little biased being a Steelers fan, but I mean, everybody always talks about his injury proneness, just like Cook. But I mean, when the guy's on, he's on like people forget he was on kind of on fire last year before he got hurt. I mean, he was catching everything, he was running well between the tackles and on the outside, and I just feel like people aren't really giving him his just due.
Well, I agree with that too. And when you have Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges under center, no offense to Duck Hodges, but you just don't really have a lot of space to work, and he was still being productive with that. So, Dan, thoughts on that?
I mean, you know how much we like to preach on this show. You know, we don't hate players, we hate ADPs. Last year was a lot harder to stomach with him as a first round pick. And just what we thought last year with potential regression in inefficiency, you know, and things of that nature. Right now he's going at the 311 though. He's been a proven RB1 in the offense just only 2 years ago. The same year that Lev Bell held out the entire time, Connor just smashed every week. You know, Chris pointed to how good he was last year. Like, you just look at the stretch from, I want to say, week 4 through week 6. I think their bye week was week 7, if I'm not mistaken. So week 4 through week 8, he put up 3 games over 20 points, one of which over 30 points. So that's with a terrible quarterbacking, a banged up Juju, a rookie in Deontay Johnson, and the second-year receiver in James Washington. You bring back Big Ben. You put Juju back into the slot. You have Washington, Johnson, and Claypool fight for the outside stuff. It's going to open up everything. Like, he's going to see lighter fronts. He's not going to see stacked fronts when he's out there, because you have to respect Big Ben. You have to respect what the vertical game can bring with guys like Washington and Deontay Johnson and their ability to separate or stack the defenders. So I think Connor is he's gonna pay off. I don't know how long it stays at 311. I think he'll end up rising up as people talk about this offense more, and how James Conner is the most disrespected back. So I think that'll rise. But right now, if I can get Connor as like my RB3, if I go, you know, robust RB, or if I get him as my RB2, I'm fucking thrilled.
Yeah. So Juju bounced back. We already hit on that. Let's talk Deontay Johnson and James Washington for a minute. And I look at this and I think, is it possible for both things to be true? Because Deontay Johnson, you know, overhyped, maybe a little bit. But really, I look at the way he separates and, you know, what was left on the field with, you know, with catchable targets and things like that. And his separation rate reminds me a lot of what Tyler Lockett was able to do. But Juju figures to be in the slot. So, you know, is Deontay Johnson pulling down that X type of receiver to where, you know, he's the route runner that has the ability to separate, and how much does that bring up his value with Ben back. But then James Washington also being underhyped. I mean, look, the Steelers are a team that traditionally likes to throw the deep ball, and that's what James Washington was brought in to do, was catch the deep ball. And it's something he does with positioning better than a lot of people, even though he doesn't quite have the separation. So I think you can believe that really all three things here are true in the positive light, I guess I should say, that Juju does bounce back from last season. Deontay Johnson is not overhyped, and James Washington is being underhyped, given what you might get out of him on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, this seems like it reminds me of an alternate universe of, you know, how it was with Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
With these two, like they can both be used, and Ben has proven that he can give, you know, serviceable fantasy seasons, get serviceable fantasy seasons out of three guys if necessary. So I think you're really right on that. James Washington can get separation with the best of them out there. He's got like I don't know, it's weird watching him run, but he's got that deceptive speed, and he'll just take off on you in a heartbeat. And Deontay Johnson definitely has the making of that technician at the X. And I just think, like I said, it gives me those feels of those teams back then. And then obviously you pull in, you know, Ebron in there, and like gives him one of the more athletic, high draft capital type tight ends since Heath Miller. So
yeah,
it makes me excited.
Yeah, and one thing there, by the way, when it comes to, you know, you threw back to Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Santonio Holmes, you know,
Yeah.
and Antonio and Mike Wallace, and all these times that Ben has supported two guys. You also have to remember that during that time you're supporting Le'Veon Bell at 100+ targets too. So even though you can say, okay, there wasn't a third fiddle there wide receiver wise, you had a running back that was catching, you know, 100+ or getting 100+ targets out of the backfield. James Conner is adequate in the receiving game, but he ain't getting 100+ targets. So
No.
I mean, there's room there. And as far as Ebron, he's about as worth drafting as a Steelers tight end ever is, which means there's week-to-week value. And yeah, you can plug in at what you'd expect to be a high-volume passing game. But you got injury concerns, and Steelers tight ends can be a bit frustrating to own. So just a little bit of caution there. I don't know that, you know, Ebron or Vance McDonald are worth anything more than, you know, that kind of mess of tight ends where you start picking people, but that's where you're going to get some upside is those guys.
Yeah, those Steelers. It's going to be hard. I don't know if I'm drafting either one of them. I think I could get less frustrating value somewhere else and hope to pick him up in free agency maybe.
Yeah, like I wouldn't draft him. Like I would just, you know, pick him up on a week. Like if it gets if one of them gets hurt, which is pretty likely to happen because they both likely get injured. So you just pick up the healthy one on any given week where you need a tight end stream, and he may pop off the same way that Heath Miller would, you know, during his tenure with Big Ben. But I just want to quickly hit on this ADP. I may have lied. Juju may be one of the most disrespected players right now. He's going in at the 604, wide receiver 29, which is fucking nuts. Because
no, he's a huge value. Juju is
massive value. I do expect this to go up, but he's going behind Michael Gallup, AJ Green, Terry McLaurin. Like
AJ Green is super disrespected right now too. By the way, we'll get to him in a minute. But
Stephon Diggs is going 2 rounds ahead of Juju. Like that's nuts to me. Like,
yeah,
this offense Ben may not throw the ball 600 times, but you know, far better efficiency. You know, from this quarterback play. Like Juju is going to be just overall better. Plus, he's healthy. Deontay Johnson 1004. That's actually lower than I expected. I thought that'd be a lot higher. And then James Washington is free right now. So, again, I don't expect this to be this low. I do expect all these players to rise. Washington will likely be a double-digit around dart throw. Deontay Johnson may have gotten his height too much, and it's going to level out anyways. And he may end up in this in that 7 to 9 round range, which I feel comfortable taking him in.
All right. Anything else to talk about with Steelers?
I think that's it.
All right, one quick kind of base level here, and then we'll get into the beer review. But one thing there's been a lot of news on this week is OTAs, return to team facilities. Last week it was we're not going to let people in until probably training camp. A lot of off-season meetings have been held virtually. So what does that do, if anything, for rookies or maybe newcomers that arrived in free agency? And does that, give you reason to fade them a little bit in draft capital or anything at all? Does it move the needle at all?
I think it does with, like, my thing with rookie tight ends is always you got to wait a couple of years, maybe even 3 years. So, I mean, you kind of push that timeline out a little bit. You kind of got to go more towards the ones that kind of hit the ground running. And it's kind of funny because running back is probably the closest thing that needs to, not as much as other positions do. But I'm probably fading a little bit as far as quarterbacks and tight ends as far as the rookies are concerned, but I'm still going ahead with the running backs and the receivers.
Yeah, Dan, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really fading all rookies. Like, and this not to say that I don't want to own them. It's hype. Like, we haven't even reached July, guys. Like the hype is going to be insane when we get that first video of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, making one guy miss and he takes off for 40 yards when he's not wearing pads, and he's going to shoot up and be a first round fucking pick. I'm going to fade most rookies. I'm going to fade all rookie quarterbacks. I'm not touching a rookie tight end. This is a shitty class. Receivers, I would rather wait and just trade for them or watch them get dropped by pissed off owners. And then in terms of newcomers, like we've talked about the hard fade on DeAndre Hopkins this year. Like, he's a big name, changing teams. The offense is going to be probably more up tempo and better, maybe in terms of volume, but the competition that he's going to face for his touches, his targets, like, he has to rebuild chemistry with a new quarterback who's already started to develop that chemistry with other receivers on this team. It's guys like that. I already talked about Diggs, and now I'm slightly fading him. So I don't like. This is such a weird offseason that I would rather maybe miss out on one of these guys or watch them kind of struggle early on and then make a move for them. Hopefully a couple weeks before they break out.
All right. For me, I'm running backs are probably the only thing I'm not going to fade too heavy because, as Chris mentioned, running backs typically do hit the ground running, and I don't feel like they struggle to produce early as much as other positions do. Tight end class already wasn't strong, so I probably wouldn't have been investing in them hugely year one anyway. The wide receiver class and the quarterbacks are really what gets hurt by this for me, because you still, as a wide receiver, have to develop that chemistry, have to develop that rapport. You got to get in the playbook. You got to understand your play calling. You got to understand the routes that are being called for you, what your responsibilities are. Not to the degree a tight end does, but, we still see wide receivers take a little bit longer to come along. So, I'm going to fade the wide receivers a bit, and then quarterbacks that don't have to start, I think it's going to put them at a disadvantage. And I think of like Tua down in Miami, who, should start eventually, but doesn't have to with Fitzpatrick already there. So, Joe Burrow, I think, is the only rookie quarterback you can really look at. And that's just because, you're not starting Ryan Finley if you're Cincy and Dalton's gone. So you kind of have to start Burrow. But other than that, I don't think you're in a must-start scenario there. Same thing with Herbert and the Chargers. I don't think you're in a must-start scenario with him to where Tyrod's not going to get a crack at it. And Tyrod is probably going to get a crack at it anyway. So
I agree.
Yep.
All right. Let's go ahead and hit some alcohol reviews for Dan and I here.
Beer review.
right, Dan, what do you think?
So again, just a quick reminder: Great Lakes is Holy Moses. This is a white ale. White ales are typically going to be a bit bright, very light in body, with a decent body to them, with a decent flavor profile. I was under the impression I wasn't a big fan of white ales. Generally, just it's not a style that I tend to gravitate towards. This one I kind of like a bit. It's a bit bready, especially on the nose, especially on the first mouthfeel. But the brightness of the notes start to stick out a little bit more, kind of opened it up. As someone who didn't even want to smell or taste beer for about 80% of my day, it's a nice surprise for me to not be completely put off by a beer at this moment. So good job to Great Lakes for this one.
Yep. All right, I'm drinking Maker's 46, and Maker's 46, the way it differentiates from normal Makers, I didn't go into this earlier. Makers was looking to do something a little bit different. It's around the same time they put Cask Strength out as well. They're looking to do something a little bit different. Is the bourbon boom was kind of happening, and one of the things that was kicked around was different finishing staves. You've seen it in the private select barrels. Well, 46 refers to the number of stave that they ended up going with in finishing this bourbon on. So that's the difference between this and regular Makers. It's finished on a 46 stave after it's aged in your new American oak, and that 46 stave tends to have a little bit deeper of a char to it. It has some nice mocha notes that come out of it, a little bit of coffee tones that come out of it when you smell it, which I was lucky to do at a tasting about a month and a half ago, where they passed around all the different staves that can be used in private select, which included 46. So, a review on this bourbon, now that the backstory is kind of there. It's more of a deep golden color, a little bit darker than regular Makers. Again, that goes along with the finishing of it. On the nose, you definitely get some of that coffee, some of that mocha profile that you would get out of that 46 stave, with a little bit of really burnt caramel is how I would describe it. On the mouth, it's got more depth than regular Makers does. It's not heavier or really doesn't have a lot more viscosity. So it's still a little thin as compared to some of your higher end bourbons, but it does definitely have a lot more flavor depth to it. It's got a light burn all the way through that kind of rolls through your mouth. You definitely get a heavy oak taste up front before it gives way to a little bit of that vanilla again, kind of burnt caramel to it, and a nice finish of kind of your bitter dark chocolates and coffee notes. So overall, it's a very, very good drink. It does lend a bit more depth than what regular Makers does. And if you're looking to kind of bridge your way into more than just your basic level bourbons, this is one that's widely available and at a pretty good price, sub $30 bottle. So there you go. It's Makers 46 for you. Spoken like a true amateur.
That's right.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to, speaking of true amateurs, the Cleveland Browns. Not what anybody expected last year out of the Browns. Baker was not great, did not have the season that you expected out of him. Beckham struggled. Landry was solid, but still not what you'd necessarily expected. Chubb was a bright spot. Hunt later in the season. They've added Austin Hooper. So let's go ahead and start with the quarterback. Can Baker Mayfield be a quarterback one?
Maybe. I guess so. After his rookie season, it felt like the sky was the limit for the guy. Obviously, I am a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm fine with that. Obviously, last year, just with everything, falling apart and getting happy feet with the very poor offensive line, the Browns really made it clear that they're going to put together what should be a more stable environment. You bring over Stefanski, who was the coordinator for Minnesota last year, alongside Gary Kubiak, bringing the same style of offense to it. So you beef off the offensive line. You have a very deep and great backfield that should help take the pressure off of Mayfield. Mayfield was 15th in the league in in play action percentage, and we expect to see a lot of play action rolled out. It really put him into more comfortable situations where he's not getting his head, ran over, 2 seconds after the snap. So whether or not the volume's going to be there, to let him get to QB1 range, I expect to see a lot more of an efficient Baker, and maybe kind of mirror what we saw from Kirk Cousins last year, where some games he's game manager, and then some games, the game opens up a bit more for him offensively, and he has a lot more QB1 weeks to him.
I think that's pretty much where I'm sitting at him with. I mean, I my take on the Browns as a whole is I think it's going to be a 2021 type thing because there's still so much change happening within the organization. You got Jedrick Wills on the offensive line. It's obviously, like I said before, it's going to be harder for him and the offensive line to kind of gel with a short off season, and that's just going to equal more Baker, happy feet running around, which they were still productive, but as far as winning, I don't know. But as far as Baker Mayfield being a quarterback one, I say he could be a fringe this year, but I don't think it'll be put all the way together until next.
Yeah, I think he could be a fringe too. There's some things when I look at the underlying numbers that I definitely like, and I think if less is put on his shoulders, and we know Stefanski will. It is Stefanski there, right? I'm not losing my mind. Okay, good, awesome. I remember something where we know Stefanski will lean on the running game a little bit more if need be, and will lean on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and some checkdowns in that manner, and find whatever way needs to happen to win a game. I think Dan's spot on where Baker's probably not going to be asked to do as much, but there are going to be some games where it really opens up for him, which I think puts him in that fringe range, where he's also a week-to-week streamer. And he was 4th in money throws, 9th in attempt distance, 5th and 9th in interceptable passes. Not necessarily good, but
he's a gunslinger.
He's a gunslinger. And he was 7th in pressured completion percentage, but then 35th in clean pocket completion percentage. So take what you will out of that. There's things to like. There's things here to not like. And ultimately, I think that you're going to get some very usable weeks out of Baker. And there are going to be other weeks where they just go away from him completely and they run the football and try to rely on a defense that I thought had a chance to take a step forward last year and kind of didn't. But, I think this is a team that still has a lot of potential, and that, again, it's just going to depend. It's really going to be week to week here for Baker Mayfield. But
yeah, I feel a lot better at him, with him as my second QB in a super flex.
You know what though? It's what Baker Mayfield needs to take the next step is to dial it back and don't put the weight of the world on his shoulders with all those passing options, because you have a good running game there too.
He does. Baker tends to perform a bit better when he gets disrespected. So maybe we'll see if Blake Planton again. Who knows?
Yep. All right. Nick Chubb versus Kareem Hunt. You got ADPs on these, Dan, because that's going to matter a little bit.
Yep. Right now. So Nick Chubb 202. Obviously, Kareem Hunt won't be that high. Kareem Hunt right now is 705. So Chubb RB10 at the 202, Kareem Hunt RB31 at the 705.
I think that's fair. I think we're going to see Kareem Hunt mix in, but I still think you're going to get a healthy dose of Nick Chubb here too, especially as they try to utilize the power run game and utilize his between the tackles ability. So, I think that price point is fair for both of them. Kareem Hunt, definitely the more upside at the draft capital, especially if Chubb were to get hurt or injured or something along those lines. I guess hurt and injured are the same thing, so I don't know why I said or there. But, the point stands. I think that you've got more value probably in the Kareem Hunt in the 7th round, but you don't have as much of a sure thing there. So, I'm really okay with either. I think Chubb's about right, honestly.
Yeah, I think they're both good ones. They both can pass catch. They both run really well. I think as far as taking a swing, I think some people might forget about Hunt. Running for Chubb, but he's also a good handcuff if you want. If you can get them that, like if you can get both of those in those same rounds, that would be freaking amazing. Because there's going to be those weeks where they ride one or ride the other because just somebody has a hot hand, and you're really not missing anything out of either because again they offer a lot of the same things with Chubb being the better between the tackles running.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, looking at the passing game, Beckham versus Landry is a question that's posed, and then Austin Hooper. Really, can talent overcome team change? So how do we break down these receivers?
It looks like the Bucs, really. Honestly, I mean, if they don't get rid of Njoku, you got a similar offense that could run that 12. Even though, yeah, you have Hunt and Chubb, but I mean, you could also run Hooper and Njoku out there and still be effective. I mean, because they're both good pass catchers. It was kind of interesting that he signed there and they didn't immediately get rid of him. So, I mean, Njoku's not like in the doghouse like Howard was. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see the target spread on those guys after OBJ and Jarvis Landry. But I think it's going to be out of those two. I don't think anybody else steps up as the wide receiver three.
Yeah.
No, like I wouldn't be surprised if because they'll probably run a lot of 12 personnel. They have the roster really shaped for it. Two dominant outside receivers, both Hooper and Njoku as pass catchers are good complements. You can have Njoku work his seam and have Hooper be there reliable kind of on the flats area. Maybe think like the Colts a few years ago with Ebron and Doyle. Hopefully better than that for fantasy. But as of right now, it states for ADP, Beckham is the 504 wide receiver 24, and Jarvis Landry is 607 at wide receiver 30. So just over around apart. For these two, I think Beckham is going to kind of yield more of what Diggs was last year for Stefanski, kind of be more of a deep threat. I think Diggs posted career highs in yards per reception and was a bit more volatile as he couldn't get the same week to week floor that we want to see from that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Beckham becomes a little bit more volatile in terms of his fantasy production. And then Jarvis Landry kind of is that great floor receiver, guy that he may not pop off every week, but it's going to give you, your 9 to 12 points on those weeks, and you feel really comfortable with it.
Yeah. Part about Beckham and what made his hit in New York was touchdowns, and this is a team that has the running game. I think to when they get down by the goal line, and has David Njoku and Austin Hooper, although Hooper's more of a between the 20s tight end, to where, is that touchdown volume going to be there for Odell? And I don't know. So for me, I like Landry at the cheaper price point with the more insulated floor than I like Odell. And, Landry had the better season last year. He's coming off the hip injury, so you might be due for a slow start. You got to keep an eye on that, even though he was trending ahead of schedule. But, when it comes to picking, I think I'm on the Jarvis Landry train more than I'm on the Odell Beckham train. Not because there's not more upside, but I think he's more likely to live up to, well, really, there's more floor. I guess Beckham's a 5th round pick, so I don't think he won't live up to that. But I think you're getting a safer bet a little bit with Landry.
I think they're both great values for what they are. I wouldn't be surprised if that Beckham does move up a little bit more.
I think there's more of a split. I think there's more of a split when it comes time when we get down to draft time between those two.
For sure. And Kareem Hunt will actually, miss, like you brought up a good point about what the Browns and what Baker likes to do in the red zone. Nick Chubb, touchdown machine. Kareem Hunt scored, I think, 6 in 6 or I want to say 5 or 6 straight games. So the touchdown upside for Odell may not be as high. Just I thought that was a great point you brought up.
Yeah. Chris, anything to add on that?
No, I agree. I would more lean towards Landry as well, just because like it was said before, Beckham's thing is touchdowns a lot of the times. I'm sure he's going to get you receptions and some yardage, but that's one of his calling cards, and so Landry gives me that safer floor, and I could even see the name, catching some fire. OBJ's back. He's going to have a great season. He's got his head on straight and all this other stuff. And Landry's gonna fade into kind of a unknown land and be disrespected, as we talked about, like with Juju, and be able to get him for value and work just fine.
Sure. All right, on to the Bengals. This is the last team we have to talk about, but how good can Joe Burrow be in year one? Redraft, I'm personally not touching it.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all on board. Like, again, weird offseason. He's still a rookie quarterback. A lot of changes in this offense. And the team kind of ran through Mixon second half of last year. I think Burrow will have some serviceable weeks, but I think people are being a little a little unrealistic into thinking that Burrow can even put up what Baker did, in his rookie season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You've got a line that's going to be healthier, so there's going to be some Joe Mixon to that, and I think you're going to get similar to what you would get out of Andy Dalton out of Joe Burrow in year one, or even look at kind of the trajectory of Sam Darnold year one to look at Burrow. I don't think you're going to be happy if you draft him to be your quarterback one. I think you're looking at him as somebody we'll talk about every couple weeks as a streamer, but I don't think you're going to be happy if you draft Joe Burrow to be that number one guy for you.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Darnold type first year and matchup based pickup. I mean, I'm not drafting him. I can get better elsewhere. I can go after a Tannehill or something like that for my second quarterback.
Exactly.
This next one's interesting because Joe Mixon, top 3 running back upside. So, I feel like you've got McCaffrey, Zeke, and then
Barkley.
I think people want it to be Saquon. So there's your top 3. Can Mixon crack those 3? So I don't know the top 3 is where I'd put him. I think when you get past those top 3, you get into a much more interesting territory where there goes the neighborhood, right? You've got an argument to be made for Kamara, but didn't happen last year when a lot of people thought it was going to. There's an argument to be made for Dalvin Cook, who's now holding out. There's an argument to be made for potentially freaking Kenyon Drake, given what he did in Arizona. People don't want to believe in that. Joe Mixon, top 5 running back. Sure, yeah. Line's healthy. Joe Burrow opens up enough room for him. I think the talent for that is definitely there. I think he's definitely a running back 1. The way the question's written, I think that Joe Mixon top 3 running back, though, is not something that I would take a bet on, even if they were heavily tilted odds. I think that's too high.
No, yeah. I set the line. I thought about it afterwards. I honestly thought top 5 was a bit too low, so there really wasn't a good median to it. I do like the point with you bringing up, going with them against the top 3 running backs that'll be drafted. He's kind of in a I won't say he's not Barkley, but the situation from what the offense could be is of similar sense. Where it may not be a top 12 or top 15 offense in football, but can the Bengals commit the way that the Giants will commit to to Saquon?
Sure. We haven't argued enough on this episode, so I want to throw out there though. Did the Giants go out and sign AJ Green and Tyler Boyd while I wasn't looking, or
I don't know, but they still have
there's Golden
Tate
and Sterling Shepard.
Darius Slayton,
right.
Evan Ingram.
Yeah, okay.
No, but like I said, which is a great
Cody
point.
Hollister is still there. You want to throw that name out? Or?
Who's the backup tight end there that everyone likes?
Rhett Ellison?
No, not Rhett Ellison. It starts with a K. Ugh.
You're gonna
someone talk. Go look it up.
You're gonna have to look that one up.
Someone talk.
No, I get the point that you're making, to where the offense doesn't project to be great, but projects to have usable pieces, and I agree with that. Is that usable piece? Are those usable pieces going to be entirely through the running game, though? Which is the point I was making. Yeah. No, probably not. You tell me top 8, I'm very comfortable with that. Tell me top 3, don't really see that scenario.
Yeah, give me top 5, 6. I throw that 8 out there. It's just because he's going to be used a lot just by virtue of everything that's going on. They're going to go through him because that's the easiest thing to do. But, I mean, it's going to get to that point where it's going to be rough because he's going to be having all these carries, and teams are kind of going to expect the run to happen if Joe Burrow's not able to make those connections with his other guys. So,
yeah,
you know, barring that kind of thing happen, I couldn't put him up there in top 4, but, you know, you could woo me on a 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. He'll be top 10 for sure.
We can say top 4. I think the top 3 are easily set. Like,
the
I'm
top
not going
4,
to say that you're.
Four is where the neighborhood goes up in flames.
I think
and
4.
I'm just not comfortable with anything.
This is why you tier everything, anyways. You know, like when we mentioned Alvin Kamara, and we mentioned Dalvin Cook, we mentioned we're talking about Joe Mixon and what they could be as a top 5 or top 4 running back.
Don't disrespect my boy Kenyon Drake. I mentioned him too.
Kenyon Drake is also a part of that. The masses aren't there with that yet. I agree with you that the off, like, he could take off, but it's in that same vein of that offense.
Austin Eckler, you could make that argument. You know, who the hell knows?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're gonna try to know eventually, but you know, right now I'd peg Mixon top 8. And I don't really know that we can break up that tier of these are the guys that could be 4 through 9 or whatever, you know.
And that's why I love starting running back heavy this year. Like, God, Miles Sanders. I know he's been the hot name. He's got that type of upside. So.
Oh yeah, that too. Le'Veon Bell. I mean, potentially. You're back.
He can score points. You know, he can score touchdowns.
Never mind, Adam Gase is still there. But I mean,
Leonard Fournette.
You throw, and then right behind that, you've got Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette fits into that, or kind of high volume between the tackles guys. So even though they're both capable of more than that, don't take that as me saying they're both just between the tackles runners. Did you find out the name of the Giants tight end? Whose name starts with a K?
Caden Smith.
People the kid from Stanford or whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Caden Smith, who had some serviceable games after Ingram got hurt, and and now is the tight end good enough to make the Giants, second guess wanting to keep Evan Ingram. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. Okay. Jesus.
So we mentioned the receiving game: AJ Green versus Tyler Boyd. John Ross is not a sleeper. I don't even know why you're baiting me with that.
Because I have to.
And T. Higgins, you're going to see some flashes out of. Look, AJ Green, you mentioned Juju is the most disrespected wide receiver. You could make an argument for AJ Green right now. I got AJ Green dirt cheap in a free agent auction, just in my contract league. You could make an argument for AJ Green being the most disrespected wide receiver right now. And you're going to have a new quarterback coming in without good tight end options necessarily, and AJ Green that can be used in a lot of ways. Tyler Boyd, I think, might fall off a bit from what he's been the last 2 seasons with a healthy AJ Green and with the new quarterback, but I think AJ Green's probably locked and loaded wide receiver 1 that is not getting talked about, which is weird that that's the point we're at. And T. Higgins is going to cut into Tyler Boyd a little bit too, so AJ Green's probably about the only wide receiver I want out of the gate, at least anywhere before the 7th or 8th round.
That's interesting to think, just because of like all these receivers are now on that even ground with Joe Burrow. Like, you don't have a Dalton there, so that built-in rapport and that built-in chemistry. Green
the cream
hasn't played for an entire
year.
And right, he's also 31 years old. We don't know what type of who we have as AJ Green at this moment.
Yeah,
6
but
years
you know
ago,
who Tyler Boyd was. You know what John Ross is.
What he really is at this point. I mean, I put John Ross in there just to be an asshole because I know how much you hate John Ross. I'm not taking John Ross either. This is really just between Boyd and Green. Boyd is going so Green's going 5'11" at the wide receiver 26. Boyd is wide receiver 32 at the 702. I agree with you that Green has higher upside. If he can get back to who he was, just a few years ago. But I think Boyd gets the same type of disrespect because Boyd is showing that he can be a great, just a good number 2. Like when Green was healthy and when Boyd was healthy just a couple years ago, Boyd was posting wide receiver 1 weeks on almost the same plane with the same target share. So
I like both receivers. I don't know if I love them because I think this offense could struggle just because of the lack of offseason with the rookie quarterback. We don't really know who Zach Taylor is at this moment either. I still like Green. I also kind of like Boyd, round and a half later.
Neither one of them make me feel good. I mean, you pretty much hit it on the head with everything: the coach, the offense, the offseason, the quarterback. AJ Green missing time. Between those two is going to be where I'm getting them at, I think. Because you still don't know what you're getting with AJ Green, even though he has the higher potential. And you know what you're getting with Boyd, but you have a new quarterback, you have a new coach, so it's really going to come down to cost. Closer to the season for redraft and things like that. Obviously, not John Ross. We're not even looking at rookie wide receivers, but not for this.
Good old John Ross. He gets Hopper's blood boiling when anyone mentions him.
This is why you don't draft wide receivers, just because they're fast.
Yes. Eagle Harvard.
No, that's not where I was going with that.
I know he wasn't.
One that almost might have punctured an artery. Anyway.
Nice.
All right, I got to get one fun question in, and I was thinking about this the other day, so I just want to.
I love this question, by the way.
Pose it to the audience. You got one TV show you can bring back for 3 more seasons. What are you bringing back?
Yikes.
I'm saying Game of Thrones, and just rework the last 13 episodes and make it 3 seasons longer.
Perfect. That was disappointing. It was frustrating. I got hooked on it when I was back in the military, and somebody was just like, "Hey, I got this CD, this," or somebody had it on DVD. It's like, "You got to check out the show." It's like, "What?" I was like, "Whatever." And then you hear my bunkmate screaming "Oh no!" I was like, "What happened?" He's like, "The Red Wedding," and then I find out what that is and stuff like that. And then you get attached to these guys, and it's just like, "Oh no, they're dead." And then you get to this last season, it's just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
We like you said, you need to kind of stretch that out, stop being so quick and rushed, and give us what we wanted, because that was ridiculous.
My heart still hurts because of it. I still haven't even gone back for a rewatch because I get so angry when it gets brought up.
Just let all kinds of stuff open, expose stuff, some of the stuff too short. What was John what was the point of him being all that he was? It was so dumb.
Yeah, he was a background character for the second half of that last season. He literally just walked around and looked pissed off.
Yeah.
It's about my everyday existence.
What's that?
It's about my everyday existence.
That's fair. What about you, Hopper? What are you picking for your show?
So the reason I brought this up was House MD.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, that was my lifeblood for a long time, and anytime I needed to get my attitude right or my headspace right, I would watch House, because I'd immediately get back into where I feel like I live at my best. And with all the pandemic going on, it's just you would have had that thing solved with 17 Vicodin, a marker board, and 3 interns. So it was just one of those shows for me that's I probably rewatched it about 4 times. And I wish there had been more of it.
He's such a savage.
He's such a savage. No, he is, and
he's amazing.
Yeah. Houseisms, just things to live your life by. I'm showing my not tuned into pop culture stuff, but my Game of Thrones silence, and I don't watch a ton of TV anyway. So, but there you go. That's it. And that is it for the show. I think we didn't have anything else left, did we?
Chris, did you have a show? I know did you just wanted to pick it? Did you want to just pick Thrones too, or did you have a?
No, that was my show. It's I was getting ready to say everything I was gonna say. I was like,
"Oh shit, my bad." I mean, sorry. Then that pause happened. And I'm like, "Fuck."
I knew the answer to that when I asked it because of what his Twitter name is. I mean,
That's fair. I should have known. I mean, I'm fine. Like, I'll change mine. Like, I like Parks and Rec just because I never wanted that show to end. I don't know if it needed 3 more seasons, but like, I would have just wanted 3 more seasons of just a Ron Swanson and Andy Dwyer, like just those two. A little bit of Tom in there, and a little bit of the loud guy. I don't remember his name now. But yeah, I'll change mine to Parks and Rec. That's fine.
I love that show so much. Like I'm a big socks guy. Like I got socks like over almost 100 pairs of socks of just stuff on them, and that's what I have. I have Parks and Rec socks. They got like Mousetrap, Treat Yourself, like I mean, what you call it, Woman of the Year with Ron Swanson on it.
Oh, no, that's fucking awesome. Oh man,
all that stuff. I was like, so I can still get down with that one too.
There's a buddy of mine. He's an old coworker of mine who has Ron Swanson tattooed on his calf that says, "I know what I'm about, son," on it. And every time I see it, I just perk up.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You had a coworker that had Ron Swanson tattooed on his calf?
Yeah. Just a big old picture, of his perfect mustache, and like the scene is perfect because it's him in a diner and he orders a party platter that feeds 12, and the waiter's like, "That feeds 12," and he goes, "I know what I'm about, son." And like just a fucking perfect, like the perfect response to when someone asks you a stupid question like that.
That's awesome.
He's everything I want it to be.
He is literally love Mr. Ron Swanson.
Sure. All right, that's our show. Thank you to Chris Nelson for jumping in and joining us. Chris, one more time, where can people find you and your content?
They can find me at the FF Vigilante, and they can find me at the Dynasty Draft Room, and I'll give you their handle. Their handle, if I can stop dawdling around. So.
Somebody's on
so, there. At TDDR_draft room, and you can find them. Sorry, guys, if it took so long. I work there, but I promise.
It's all right. I mean, we love Matt Hicks, too, so.
Oh, I give him trouble all the time. He's forever leaving somebody out and posts and stuff like that. It's hilarious. we like making fun of his dad jokes, and he's like one of the only ones that doesn't have kids in the whole staff.
He has the look of like wearing like the high socks, New Balance with the tucked in shirt into his khakis, just like cracking open like the perfect dad jokes. Like I could totally see like Matt's like destined to be that.
Absolutely. I've followed him my whole career though, so I love that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I have so much fun with Matt just because I like to poke at him. He is one of my favorite industry people. So, all right. I am at Hot BFF with 2 P's. Hey, thefantasyheadliners.com. I think that was the website. It's in the Twitter link. I'm staring right at the Twitter link. Yes, thefantasyheadliners.com. Go check out their draft guide. $19.99 promo code beer. Get yourself entered to win a Sutton DJ Moore jersey. Everything you could think of stat wise in there. Have it in your hip pocket. It's a great tool. It's something you're going to want to have. We fully endorse those guys' work. And you can go back if you want to get comfortable with them and listen to our last episode. It was 2 weeks ago, where we just did a rapid fire with Jake and Kyle. Great people. We've had them both on the show several times, so be sure to check that out. Some of you will notice that we didn't do a show last week, so a little context to that. I meant to do this in the intro. Didn't give it to you. With everything going on in the world, with, from the wider spread of the world to my own world, like working a bajillion hours, it wasn't in the cards. It wasn't in the cards to get something done last week. But because we didn't do one last week, we owe you guys a catch-up episode. So we'll have Stompy on this week on Wednesday. Sam Lane, former Catfish Bowl champion. Nobody knows him by his actual name though. So Stompy, to discuss.
He got mad at me when I called him Sam and not Stompy when we met him.
Yeah.
At the Midwest Expo last. He goes, "Why are you calling me Sam?" I'm like, "I don't know, because I'm trying to be fucking formal." He goes, "Stompy."
Stompy.
Like, all right. I'm sorry. That's fair.
We were gonna have him on last week, though. He had some stuff pop up last minute and had to cancel. That was the other reason why we just didn't move forward with it. So we'll have him on this Wednesday, though, to go over the AFC West. That's it. Yeah, Broncos. Duh. To go over the AFC West. So we'll be doing that on Wednesday. At 3BFF, Dan, any parting words?
Thank you again for Chris for jumping on, man. As always, I love bringing on everybody. Bringing on a bunch of people, talking fantasy, talking some pop culture, reminiscing over how amazing Ron Swanson is. Again, we're gonna have Stop Beyond, aka Sam Lane, on Wednesday. As Hopper just mentioned. So again, go out there, get the fantasy headliners. Draft guide, $19.99, promo code beer, $5 off, I believe, and a potential signed DJ Moore jersey. That's it.
All right. See ya.
Perfect.
Perfect way to end the show, just like we started, way off pace.
Way off pace.